Before empires fell, before kingdoms rose, before the written pages of history could fully capture the fire of faith, there lived a man whose life bridged the age of the apostles and the birth of the church. A man who stood in the shadows of giants, yet became a pillar himself. His name was Simon of Jerusalem. In a world ruled by Rome, in a land trembling under political oppression and spiritual hunger, Simon walked quietly, faithfully, and courageously. His story is not one of fame, but of endurance. Not of riches, but of righteousness. Not of survival, but of sacrifice. Simon was not an ordinary believer. Tradition holds that he was a relative of Jesus Christ, often described as a cousin. He came from a lineage already marked by devotion and suffering. He grew up hearing stories of miracles, whispers of prophecy, and the murmurs of a coming Messiah. Jerusalem was not merely a city to him, it was the center of divine history. Simon likely lived during the ministry of Jesus. Imagine the atmosphere: crowds gathering, healings taking place, authorities growing uneasy. Though historical records are scarce, what we know is powerful. Simon belonged to the early community of believers who risked everything for their faith. In 70 AD, Jerusalem fell to Roman forces. The city burned. The temple was destroyed. Families scattered. The Christian community fled before the catastrophe, guided by warnings and prophetic insight. Simon was among those who survived, not by strength, but by obedience and discernment. After the destruction, the Christian community needed leadership. They needed stability. They needed a shepherd. Simon emerged, not as a conqueror, not as a politician, but as a bishop. He became the second bishop of Jerusalem, succeeding James the Just. His leadership was not marked by power, but by humility and unity. Simon's role was monumental. The church was young. Persecution was real. Doubts were common. He nurtured believers who were afraid, confused, and scattered. He strengthened communities that met in secrecy. He preserved teachings that would one day shape civilizations. Unlike many famous figures, Simon left no writings that survived. But leadership is not always recorded in ink. Sometimes it is etched into lives changed and faith preserved. He led through example, through endurance, through quiet courage. As Christianity spread, Roman authorities grew suspicious. Leaders were watched. Communities were infiltrated. Faith became dangerous. Simon's heritage, being related to Jesus, made him a target. To the Romans, lineage meant influence. Influence meant threat. Simon was eventually arrested during the reign of Emperor Trajan. He was accused not merely of belief, but of belonging to a family considered politically dangerous. Imagine the courtroom: stone walls, armored guards, tense silence. An elderly bishop standing firm before imperial authority. Simon was reportedly over 100 years old at the time of his arrest. An old man in body, but unbroken in spirit. He was tortured, not to extract information but to force denial. He refused. In a world that demanded compromise, Simon chose conviction. Like his Lord, Simon faced crucifixion, a brutal punishment meant to humiliate and silence. But instead of silencing him, it immortalized him. His death was not defeat. It was testimony. Simon's martyrdom strengthened believers rather than scattering them. His courage became a foundation stone for future generations. He proved that leadership is not measured by longevity, but by faithfulness. Though history preserved only fragments, the Church preserved his memory. He stands as a bridge between the apostolic age and the growing Christian world. Simon of Jerusalem did not write books, but he wrote history with his life. He did not command armies, but he commanded respect through faith. He did not seek glory, but he gained eternity. In the quiet corridors of history, some names thunder louder than kings. Simon is one of them. This is the saint's path, where forgotten lives become eternal lights.